The months passed, and every day young David stepped through the portal and back in time. Winter turned to spring, and the hotel filled with anxious refugees from the past, all eager to see the new Jerusalem that Zachary and his people were building for them. It was a happy time for young David, for the hotel was filled with joy and laughter and friendship. He had dinner with childhood friends he had not seen in years, and made his peace with former lovers. The lobby was filled with children playing games and strangers finding love. Spring became summer, and there was a marriage. The hotel had nearly 200 occupants, and a pregnancy was announced. Everyone worked together to make the hotel a home, and every day young David stepped into the past to retrieve another lost soul and guide them into paradise. For the first time in his life, young David knew true peace, for nothing short of death would ever break apart this community that had formed in the hotel. No one would move away, for beyond Long Beach lay the beasts that still haunted everyone's dreams. And young David was happy to live and die in the same place with the same people, and never feel loss or longing. There was a celebration on New Year's Eve, when young David delivered the last of Long Beach's new citizens from the teeth of the voracious monsters. He was a man young David had never met before, a distant cousin of his college roommate's stepsister, but still he was welcomed to his new home like a brother. That night in the penthouse suite, young David and Alice made love, and she wept in his arms afterward, mourning the children of the world who had not been saved before the portal closed. But young David shed not a tear for those it was not possible for him to save, and he slept soundly in his comfortable bed. The next day, Zachary appeared to young David for the first time in exactly 1 year, and with a smile on his face he told the occupants of the hotel that they could now emerge into their new home. When they stepped outside and into the daylight, they were greeted with an achingly beautiful sight. Long Beach, rebuilt, renewed, and blanketed in snow. Zachary and his people had spent the year constructing the perfect city. There were homes for everyone, with enough to house the next dozen generations. North Long Beach had been torn down, and in its place lay farmland as far as the eye could see, where food and livestock could be raised to feed hungry citizens. All polluting cars had been removed, and tracks lined the streets, trains ready to take anyone anywhere they wanted to go. This new world had no drugs, alcohol, or disease, only the kind of freedom man had never known. This was Eden in every way. The years passed, and young David raised his family in peace, living in a house by the sea and watching Long Beach grow and prosper. He spent his days reading and playing with his children, who in time grew into adulthood and moved into homes of their own. Young David became old David. He knew only happiness as he watched his grandchildren play on safe streets with the grandchildren of friends he'd known for as long as he could remember. Now he knew he would have those friends with him till the day he died, and that brought him great joy and comfort. But the peace was not meant to last forever, and the new generation grew curious, as young people do. It wasn't long before they were venturing beyond the fog and into the chaos outside of Long Beach, and the news they brought back shattered old David's peace. The monsters that had ravaged the world 50 years earlier lay dead of starvation. It was safe to leave Long Beach behind. But why? Old David argued. We have everything here we could ever want or need. Outside of Long Beach is pain and uncertainty. Here we have each other and peace. Beyond our borders lies the world, and the world is an awful place where suffering awaits. There will be toil and loss. All that leave this paradise will face hardship. Friends will leave you, lovers will leave you, your children will leave you. Nothing will bind you together. All you will find is heartbreak." But soon the young people were leaving in droves, out to discover this world they had only read about in history books. Old David wept for weeks when his grandson set out, determined to reach the remains of New York. Soon the city streets grew empty, as more and more of Long Beach's citizens succumbed to death or the temptation to be pioneers. And old David, once again, knew what goodbye truly meant. One day, Alice came to old David, who sat on the beach watching the waves lap against the sandy shores. "I must go," she told him in tears. "There was so much I didn't get to see before the monsters took it all away, and now my time is short on this earth. There's a boat leaving for Paris in the morning, and I'll be on it." Old David cried and begged his wife not to leave him, but she held him close and cried and begged him to come with her. But old David only shook his head and held up a handful of sand. "This is my home," he cried out, letting the grain slip through his withered fingers. The next day, Alice was gone, and old David was all alone. Months passed, and old David did not leave his bed. He wanted to stay under the sheets, always pretending that it was morning and he was just sleeping late. He imagined the sound of his children playing out in the living room, or of Alice singing, or of friends now long dead coming to visit. Old David knew only sorrow, for everything he loved about his home was gone. All that remained in Long Beach for him now was death. Zachary appeared to old David one day. Zachary appeared to old David one day on the shores of the Pacific and asked him where everyone had gone. He was horrified when old David told him of their migration out into the world, and silver tears fell from Zachary's reflective eyes. After all the effort he and his people had made to make Long Beach an oasis for humanity, how could they just up and leave? Old David shrugged his weary shoulders and sighed. "I wish I knew," he said, "but I must go now too. I have lived in this city all my life, but it is not my home without the people I love in it. I will leave tomorrow to find my wife, if I can. If not, I will spend my days wandering, seeing what lies beyond the borders of my home, and taking what I have learned here with me." "And what have you learned?" Zachary asked, putting his hand on old David's shoulder. "I have learned that people leave," old David said, tears in his eyes. "People move and travel and die, and don't come back. People believe you could never live without, may walk out of your life forever, and you can either become embittered by that or mine those relationships for wisdom. I don't wish to live in my memories, but to make new ones, and so I must leave this place that no longer holds joy for me, and set out to find new joy in other worlds." Zachary did not understand, and he begged old David not to leave. Old David simply smiled and embraced his friend, thanking him for many years of happiness. The next day, with a suitcase in his hand, old David boarded a boat for Paris and watched with tear-filled eyes as Long Beach disappeared over the horizon. He knew he would never return, but he hoped that wherever he ended up, he could plant the seeds of joy Long Beach had left in his heart, and raise a new home that might spring forth with new joys and possibilities. And that's it. That's Beyond Zero. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And book is available in the web store. So I hope you guys pick it up. I think you'll enjoy it. Next week, I think I'll pick something. I'll see if I can find something a little darker, because this story might give you the impression, and Stop the Hate might give you the impression, that it's all peace, love, and understanding. And as people who've read the book will tell you, that's not Manic Expression. So thanks for listening.